everyone, this is Anna from Savcatch Realty, and today I'm here to talk about the possibility of a crash in the Portuguese real estate market, and specifically the city of Lisbon. So for those of you who don't know, Savcatch Realty is a relocation and investment agency that works with lifestyle and helps expats settle in Portugal and works in the whole country, so allows you to just have an ideal of the life you want to have, and we'll figure out the rest for you. We work with both rentals and purchases and have been in the market for quite a while, so we've had a lot of experience on relocating clients. So everyone has been panicking lately with the whole NHR and government situation. And I can say that I'm happy about it. I'm not. So there's been a lot of measures made by the government that I personally don't agree with, but they are what they are. And the question that everyone has been having on their minds, and I've noticed a lot of clients and contacts that we have of people wondering, is the Portuguese market going to crash? So personally, I think it's going to lower, but it's not going to crash. And it's probably going to be felt the most, especially in Lisbon. Maybe a bit in Porto, but not as much because Porto only started to spike this year. So it won't be felt nearly as much. And I personally think that lowering the Portuguese real estate market is a very welcome thing from a Portuguese perspective. The prices were starting to get very unrealistic from the internal economic perspective. But I stand my way when I say this is not exactly a foreigner's problem. I mean, Portugal is still going to be very attractive for the same reasons it has been until now, being one of the safest country, the seventh safest country in the world, having pretty affordable cost of life and very high quality products, and especially food products, very high quality food, very good climate, good education, good options, and that's not going to change. So although a lot of people will start to look at other countries as a possibility, the question will be, will all those factors be better? And I would say that right now, the countries that are probably going to be the most increased on demand are probably going to be Spain and Italy and maybe Greece. And there are talks of Spain doing a program to take advantage of what the Portuguese government is doing by removing the NHR. And I just launched a video about the NHR and the NHR situation last week. So if you want to understand better what's exactly happening with NHR, you can check that video. But here I'm to talk about the market itself and whether or not it's going to crash. So there's even been recently big YouTubers releasing videos predicting the crash. And I'm going to give you a bit of a different information of some of those topics. So one of the big concerns is the variable rates on loans. And although that's definitely a fact, that's not something new. And the rise in the interest rates, it's actually something that started happening in the beginning of this year and has stabilized by now. And it's probably going to lower now. So this is actually something that banks have been concerned for a very long time. For 3 years, I've been hearing the whole conversation about a lot of repossessions crashing the market, and that's been nowhere near the case. So the few repossessions that come into the market, they just disappear like this. There's a lot of people looking for new houses, especially Portuguese people wanting to take advantage of those situations because the market is so high right now, and the repossessions usually offer pretty good rates. And there is not nearly enough repossessions to crash the market. There is way less demand than supply. And the variable rates and the fact that they are 90% of the rates here in Portugal, you also need to take into account that 80% of the loans in Portugal have monthly rates under 400 euros. So it's very different when you pay from 400 to 800, which you can kind of figure out and get that extra income, than paying going for 1,500 to 3,000. So that's very different scenarios. And that bigger end of the market, like the more expensive houses, they are the ones that are the most at risk. But even on that niche, I've seen very little repossessions. And yes, the market is slow, and I believe it is slow because most of the people that were on edge about moving to Portugal are kind of seeing what happens and waiting for prices to come down and waiting for things to settle down politically, which is fair. And as you know, the foreign market is a very big market, especially in the cities like Lisbon and the Algarve and Porto. So that's what it is felt the most. So yes, prices are going down a bit, but it's not dramatically at all. And the situation, or for example, new constructions, there being new constructions in Lisbon. Yes, there are a lot of new constructions in Lisbon, but I can't tell you an exact percentage, but the vast majority of them, 90 or to 80 to 90%, well, maybe 70 to 90%, was sold before the construction ends. And we've had clients look for new properties in Portugal and in Lisbon specifically. And like I said, most of the new developments are fully sold. So there is not an oversupply at all. I mean, that's exactly the opposite. There is an undersupply. There is more demand than supply in most locations of Portugal, and especially Lisbon. And that's kind of the problem. And the reason that is a big problem is because it's actually very hard to develop here in Portugal. It's horrible to deal with town hall and how much they change their policies and their minds, and it takes years just to get a licensing. So it's actually very frustrating to develop in Portugal and takes very long time. And the prices of plots are all over the place. And then the construction costs increased a lot recently. The costs of labor increased a lot. So the prices on new construction are actually very justified. And it's extremely rare to find new construction to be negotiable. You may find new construction negotiably mostly when are renovations that didn't require licensing and proceeded directly to the works. That I also have a video explaining how that works about renovations and constructions. But only in that scenario things are a bit more negotiable because usually they have a bigger margin. But when it comes to new construction, there is no oversupply at all. There is way more demand than supply, and it's actually very hard to find new construction and barely negotiable. So I don't think that market will be affected much. It will mostly be the second-hand market that will lower a bit. But time will tell, and once again, I don't believe it will be nearly enough to crash the market. And once things settle down, we will see how it goes. It is still possible to take advantage of the NHR for people who apply to the visa until the end of the year. And although definitely the cost of living in Lisbon increased dramatically, and I wholeheartedly agree that Lisbon is no longer a very affordable place, even from an Euro perspective, although it's still lower than, for example, London, that it's kind of the peak. I think it will never be higher than London. If it is, then we have a very big problem. But I think it's a good thing if things go down a bit in Lisbon, but once again, I don't think it will crash in a dramatic way. It may be over the next year, it may be interesting to find some deals and situations that you can take advantage of, but I think that it won't take more than a year to stabilize the market once again. And I think it's very likely that the government will get another measure to incentivize the foreigners coming here. Because if that doesn't happen, the ones that will be paying the decrease of income that came from there are the ones that are Portuguese and residing in Portugal. And honestly, it's going to be very bad for the Portuguese if there is drastic reduction of the foreign investment in Portugal. I also would say that from an investor's perspective and from the big market perspective, most of the big investors are currently waiting it out, which definitely affects that market, but that's kind of a separate market. And the whole alojamento local scenario, so the Airbnbs and holiday rentals, it is limited, but it's not stopped. So currently, you cannot transfer Airbnbs in the city. So the ones who have it can keep it and can keep doing it. But it is much harder to get new licenses, especially in apartments. It's easier to do in townhouses and villas. But I think once again that's a good thing. I actually found that the proposal that the government did for the alojamento local was very well done, because it limited appearing new Airbnbs all over the place, especially in big cities, because honestly that was inflated the market very drastically and very unnecessarily. And it still allows in other locations that do need that incentive, and that it's good to have that extra tourism and those extra options to have them. And it also allows for the whole villa and townhouse, because there's a very little offer on that. I think the biggest issue with the Airbnbs is that there is kind of a gap in the Portuguese law when it comes to medium-term rentals, because on the long-term rentals side, you pretty much can, it's only worth it to do 1 year plus contracts, and the Airbnbs usually do like daily, weekly stays and so on. And they actually have no restriction. They can do yearly too if they want. So what happens is that the Airbnbs tend to be the ones that fulfill the medium-term rental market, that, just monthly or 2 months stays, which is actually a need in the market. There's a lot of people looking for those kinds of stays, and they end up being limited to Airbnbs. So I think that's one of the problems that the government needs to solve, or at least create kind of an intermediate situation that allows for the medium-term rentals not being holiday rentals. So that's one of the gaps in the market right now. But overall, the rental market is super inflated everywhere, because there is way more demand than offer. And cutting out on investors and foreign investors is only going to make that problem worse, because the demand is not going down. Even if the foreign demand goes down a bit, and maybe that quiets down a bit when it comes to rental costs, it's still extremely inflated from a Portuguese perspective, and it's still very low offer in the rental market. Like, things that are affordable in the rental market, they disappear in a matter of hours. It's absolutely nuts. And it's not just in Lisbon, it's everywhere. It's very, very hard to find affordable rentals in Portugal, because there isn't a lot of offer in the market. There's not a lot of people renting out their houses, And renting to foreigners is a lot more profitable because they pay more, and also a lot safer. Because being a landlord is not just goods. It's not just getting your money and everything pays for itself. There is often damage situations. There is often situations where the tenant's stopping, and it's very, very hard to deal with that here in Portugal. So making it even less attractive to rent in Portugal is going to create a much bigger rental market problem. And the long-term rental market is hopefully going to deflate a bit, but it's very likely to stay in a high and to keep being more demand than offer. So overall, my conclusion to all this is, once again, I really do, I hope that the price is lower, especially in Lisbon and Porto. I don't think the other locations will be drastically affected at all. And I don't think the market is going to crash anytime soon. So I hope that this was useful. If you are looking to get an opportunity, one of the concepts of Savcatch is exactly to try and decrease the gap between foreigners and locals and try to help foreigners find a good deal in a financially and culturally sustainable way. So feel free to reach out to us. We work with both rentals and purchases. You can check us how we work and everything we do in our website at www.savcatchrealty.com. And you can also contact us directly at contact@savcatchrealty.com, where my administrative Katio will come back to you very soon. So I hope that this was helpful. I would love to hear your opinion. I know this is a very hot topic right now and a very, how is it said? Controversial. This is a very controversial thing right now. But I stand my opinion. Like in the beginning of the year, there was also this whole thing of Portugal market was going to crash, and it actually increased during the year. So I think things will depend a lot also on the government position and how things develop, given the current very unstable situation, political situation. But overall, I think it's very unlikely to be a crash. So, love to hear from you, and I hope this was helpful. See you all again next week. Bye.